Hey everyone, as you know, conversion is at the very core of what we do as a brokerage. Conversion is our key CRM software that we use, and we want to make sure you understand how to use it. So we have contacted Conversion, and they did a webinar just for our agents to help Plum Tree agents know exactly how to use Conversion. So that's what this video is about. We always say the more you learn, the more you earn. That's not just reading books, that has to do with software. So take time to learn the software, and this video will be very important to you. Watch any videos that you can. I encourage you to learn about one new thing a week with Conversion, and after a year you'll know about 52 new things, which will allow you to explode your income. So without any further ado, here's Annalisa from Conversion training our Plum Tree agents.
Thank you so much. So, hi everyone, my name is Annalisa. What Chris had asked me to cover initially in his message to me was go over like an overview of the dashboard, how to give it the eyeball, make sure you are tackling a certain things per day, go over the template on how you can affect change on your own website that's tied to your dashboard, so your consumer-facing website, looking at how to utilize notes and hashtags, customizing drips, squeeze, and landing pages, and the valuation. Now, this is a ton of content to cover in about 45 minutes to an hour, so we may or may not get through every subject. So if you've got something that's been heavily on your mind where you're like, hey, could we skip to that? Please let me know and I'll try to work that in. Otherwise, I am going to start off here by making sure that first you can see my cursor moving on this screen. So I've just started sharing my screen. I'd like you to let me know if you can see my cursor moving counterclockwise.
I see it.
Awesome, perfect. Okay, that's good. And what I have here is an agent dashboard open, and it's actually Chris's dashboard, and I figured we could go through and first go over how to navigate this thing on a daily basis when you first log in the morning. What are the first 3 to 4 things you should be looking at and tackling, and then going about your day of, different follow-ups, advertising, etc. So this is typically what your agent dashboard looks like on Conversion. On the top right-hand side, you're going to see these little icons with a red dot and a number inside of them. There are a couple of these that you should really be paying closely attention to over the others. The first of which is this old school handset icon here with the number 5 inside of this red dot. So your number inside the red dot may vary, but when you see a number inside of a red dot, that's an indicator to you that Conversion has said, hey, heads up, these are the calls that you need to make today. And this matches the email that we send out every day as well. So on a daily basis, Conversion does an analysis of your entire lead base. And this is based on these factors. These are the calls that you should make today. And this is basically an analysis of lead rotation. Is it every 30 days, 60 days, 90 days for contact? And lead rotation is set up on the broker dashboard, as well as lead online activity. So if your leads have exhibited some type of online behaviors that we pick up on and track, Conversion might say, hey, it's likely these people need to have a call, you should call them. Now, when you look at this list, you see this little timeline of 8 hours left here. It's going to give you a countdown of hours left in the day to complete this task. It's imperative that you complete these tasks on a daily basis because the broker can build in agent accountability factors. And you'll need to check with Chris on what he has set up there. However,
Well,
go ahead.
We go with the default, Annalisa, which means if they miss a certain number of phone calls,
right,
then it automatically locks them out.
Perfect.
And that's the default that it comes with. So it's good for our agents to be aware of that. If you don't do your phone calls, it will lock you out, and you'll wonder why you're not getting leads. And it's not just that you didn't call them, but it has to do if you notated that you
Correct.
made the phone call. So that's how that works.
Right. So like he's saying, if you miss X amount of calls within an X amount of period of time, there's the potential for getting locked out of receiving brokerage-driven leads. So to make sure that you have followed through and completed these tasks, like Mandy Miller here, let's say we need to call Mandy, you can just click on the name. Kunversion will pull that file open for you. And it's imperative that you use one of these 3 call dispositions to close the task out. So you either need to click on bad number, not home, or contacted, and then note accordingly. So this action of clicking one of these 3 dispositions is what closes the task. I find that some agents are making the call and they might be going in and creating a separate note, but they're not clicking one of these dispositions, therefore they're getting dinged for a missed call. So make sure you're following through with the entire process. Now, I know some other people might be like, well, you know what, I just talked to Mandy 2 days ago, why should I call her today? Or I just texted, emailed, maybe I have a call set up next week. That's fantastic because you have that action set up, but it's still super important to click one of these. I would click contacted and then note, just talked to yesterday, calling next week. Follow through so you can look back on it to know the action was taken care of. If your broker is popping in to do spot checks, they see the note, they know you're on top of it. It's just kind of closing that loop in that action.
And that is probably the #1 reason why agents get locked out and stop getting leads, is because they don't click one of those 3 things: bad number, not home, or contacted. So agents, be sure that you, if you don't pay attention to anything else, make sure you notate this, because this will lock you out pretty quick.
For sure. And if we go back to your dashboard here, I'm going to click on this little house and dashboard on the upper left-hand side. If you happen to miss a call, if you scroll down, you'll see this section where it says new leads, recently active, hottest, and then there's this missed calls tab. So if you happen to have missed a call, you can loop back to it and still complete that action. It's not going to negate the fact that you missed the call, but it does give you the chance to do your due diligence in jumping back into the lead, making that outreach and so forth. Now, the next segment we're going to look at is this little yield sign or triangle with the exclamation point inside. This is your notification section. Now, this is where you're going to find any broker required tasks. So it looks like Chris has built in some requirements saying, these following leads need to be called based on specific activities or time in the system. And as we scroll down, let me see if I've got any system ones that are going to land. Okay, so here are some system notifications. So make sure you're scrolling up and down these to see the broker mandated and any of these system notifications. The Kunversion is designed to track all sorts of information for you, so you don't have to keep track of that minutia. So like K. Blum unsubscribed from emails 32 minutes ago. This is something the system is telling you that a new activity has happened. So this little 3 on top of the yield sign with the exclamation point is in relation to these 3 system notifications. This is super important to watch because you could, if K. Blum had a phone number, you could absolutely call them and provide a service saying, hey, I noticed you unsubscribed from emails. Can I find out what we could do to better our experience? Try to find out why they unsubscribed, because it could be something as simple as maybe they were getting one too many alerts too often. Maybe they weren't getting the right alerts. Maybe we could have backed them off of more aggressive campaigns. So it gives you the chance to get that insight so you can perhaps adjust messaging that's going out or frequency of messaging for other leads to give you that insight. Michelle Kipp here has saved a listing at some point in their history of looking at homes. Kunversion has recognized via the MLS of which you're connected that there was a price reduction 2 hours ago via the MLS. And we immediately sent Michelle a heads up. Hey, heads up, this price has been homed by this percentage to this amount. Do you still have any questions on it? Are you still interested? Natalie C. saved a listing off market. So this means at some point Natalie saved a listing, but that listing's no longer active on the MLS. So the system let her know. So these are also insightful things you can use as icebreakers to give Michelle a call. Hey, did you happen to see that listing was reduced? Or Natalie, I noticed you had saved a listing that's off the market. Are you still looking for similar homes? So this gives you an excuse to call people. It's a nice little way to keep an eye on these activities and give you that chance to have an icebreaker. Anything to add, Chris?
No, that's very helpful.
Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at here is down this left-hand side of your dash where this activity stream is. It's the third option down on the left. Your activity stream is kind of like taking the pulse on your wrist, but this is like taking the pulse of your dashboard. When you click on activity stream, it shows you everything your leads have looked at in the last 5 days. So at a glance here, you can see everything everyone's been up to on your website. Now, some insightful information here is any photo tile indicates they've looked at the property. However, a rectangle photo tile, such as this one off Asbury, this indicates a higher level of interest in a property. So the lead has either saved the property or looked at it 5 times or more. If it's outlined in purple, like this one here off East Street, Route 73, it indicates it's a listing associated with your brokerage. And if it's outlined in yellow, such as this one on Global Court, this is a listing that is either pending or contingent on the MLS. Now, these little timestamps, like this first one here with Jamie Lee, this little timestamp in the bottom left indicates Jamie Lee looked at this property once via the mobile device 48 minutes ago. And the system will actually tell you if they're looking on desktop versus mobile. So if we look across, this property here with the D. Posey looked at this property once via their desktop 3 hours ago. Now, if you were to pop in here and be like, okay, Ocean Spray has looked at this home, 4 times, but it's a rectangle, so I know they've saved it. You might want to click on this tile and give that person a contact. See if we can give them a call, email them, what have you. So you can actually click on the home tile. Kunversion will open up a new tab for you. And you can learn about the lead right here. So if we click on their activity stream across the top, we can see everything this particular lead has looked at in the last 7 days. So we can see here they've got a lot of homes that are that are a rectangle. Now you'll probably notice that this white home is located 3 times. So this means the lead, actually 4 times. This lead's actually come back and viewed this home multiple times, and the timestamp will say the first time they viewed it was 8 days ago, then twice on day 7, and then once on day 4, and at that point they saved it. So you can get a little insights into what they're looking at and potentially call them about that house as an icebreaker. Anything you'd add there, Chris?
Well, I think it's really interesting when you look at the leads. 2 things. One is when you see that they've had special interest in a property. What a great reason to call them and say, hey, I saw you were, I know you had seen this such and such property. Would you like me to set up a showing? Great reason to call them. Another thing that's interesting is you can see, as she said, it shows if they were looking at it on a cell phone or if they're using their desktop. And I find it particularly interesting when the same lead has been going back and forth between a desktop and an iPhone or whatever, because that shows they're really plugged into the Plum Tree site. So I would spend special interest on those types of leads.
That's a really good point. Also, say you get them on the phone and they're like, hey, what do you know about McAlpin Avenue, which is the one we're currently looking at. You can actually either click on the tile via their profile, or you could pop up here to the top left of your screen. So this could happen sometimes if somebody's like calls you and they're like, hey, what do you know about McAlpin? And outwardly you're like, everything, and inwardly you're like, nothing. You can actually do a keyword here up on the top left of an MLS number, an address, part of the address, agent's name, email, name, like lead name, phone number. This is like a general all search up here for a keyword up on the upper left. So you can put in McAlpin or the MLS number, what have you, click your magnifying glass, and Kunversion will pull all matching data from your MLS and your entire dashboard. So you can be like, oh, I've got it right here, 547 McAlpin. So that's one way you can find information very easily The cool thing about this is when you're looking at this and they're like, hey, could we go look at it? Or are there any homes similar to this? Or are there any homes near this area that are also for sale? You have all of this information built in for you. If you scroll down just a titch here, you'll see these homes are similar to McAlpin. So Kunversion uses something similar to like a Google image match that says, 547 McAlpin is similar to 1850 Columbia Parkway and 10 Mercer Street. The system,
Very cool.
It is pretty neat. And the system also shows you how many views that those homes have had on the MLS. So if you wanted to put a little pepper on the conversation, you could be like, hey, there's been about 60 people that have looked at Columbia Parkway. We should probably go sooner than later. It's a hot property. Also, if they're like, hey, let's, get in the car, let's go take a look. You could also look at the nearby tab, and it'll show you every home that's within a 2-mile radius that's for sale. So you could say, while we're out there, maybe we should look at 40 Rawson or 403 Lafayette or 15 Orchard Trail. So
That's great.
It is, and it can help you, further send them more information on those properties, let them really show them with minimal effort on your part because it's all right here. It's just an added service, an added bonus, and give that person added insight into that you do know the business. You've got all of this information at your fingertips. All right, going back to the dashboard here. The next thing I want to talk to is setting up listing alerts. So again, just to recap, what you should do every day is knock out your daily calls, pop in and take a look at your notifications here, and activity search. And I see a question came in here, I believe from James. He says, I found myself stuck with very cheap houses. How do I upgrade to more expensive houses? So James, are you speaking to leads that are coming in looking for homes with a lower price point than what you would like to see? Yes. Okay. So there are a couple of things that could be done, and you would need to work this out with Chris. I'm not sure how the brokerage determines these things. There are settings in place that you can put, like I don't want to accept a lead lower than X amount, but you would need to, of course, work that out with Chris and how the business flows there.
Hey, James, I know you're new to Plum Tree, just now transitioning. And the cool thing about this software, what I would do if I was looking for a higher price point, I would do squeeze pages for, and we're going to learn about that in a little bit. I would create squeeze pages for exactly the price point of home that you want to be selling, and then I would post those everywhere. So that's how I would focus on a particular price point. If you create a squeeze page for a $50,000 house, then you'll start getting $50,000 buyers. And if you create a squeeze page for $400,000 homes, you'll start finding $400,000 buyers. So that would be my strategy.
Right, and within the squeeze pages, that'll be the next thing we can tackle. Within squeeze pages, I can also show you how to edit a squeeze page so you can finesse your top end and bottom end price range if you like to, as well as bed and bath.
Yep, that's great.
Yeah, it's a really neat tool. So again, knock out your calls, take a look at your notifications, check out your activity stream. Now, when a new lead lands in the system, they're going to land as a green tile across the top of your dash. And Chris, do you mind if I pop into Jamie Lee Peace's?
That's fine.
Okay. So you just click on View Lead Details. And there's a few things that happen when a lead initially lands on your dashboard. And it's important you know what they are so you know what your part of the puzzle is in correspondence with conversion. So like with Jamie Lee Peace here, the first thing we're going to do whenever you look at a new lead, and I encourage you to do this on the first day or at least within the first 2 days, is you look at this email info section. Now within this, you see this alerts, conversion default, and subscribed and deliverable. Ideally, when you glance at this, after you have made sure the account is set up correctly, you should see a trifecta of check marks here. This is what you can glance at and be like, all right, everything is golden. I've got all of my marketing set up and going to this person. Conversion automates quite a few things for you. when a lead lands. The first of which is this bottom check mark where it says subscribed and deliverable. So within the first 15 minutes of a lead's life, Kunversion sends an internal data validation regarding the email address of which the lead provided. And at the same time, that triggers an external welcome, thanks for registering, thanks for visiting type of message to the lead. So that happens within that first 15 minutes to determine if the email is good. All of the information that we grab from the data validation lands across this top portion of the lead on this Notes tab. So we can see here our data validation brought in this content regarding the phone number and email address. So the email address of Jamie Lee Peace is an excellent address, and it matches up with a Gravatar profile. If a lead signs up with an email that matches what they signed up for with Facebook, Twitter, Gravatar, Foursquare, LinkedIn, etc., and that's public information we can pull, it's going to land the profile type of Facebook, LinkedIn, etc., and a link to that person. So if we click on Gravatar, and of course we'll have to sign in once we're here, but then we'll be able to locate Gizzy Gizmo, which happens to be their nickname on Gravatar. So if someone doesn't answer the phone, respond to a text, respond to an email, you may have an alternative way of contacting them via one of these platforms that land here. Also, sometimes you might see a name associated with an email address. It could be a lead's name, husband's name, wife's name, significant other, perhaps a nickname or a different name associated with the email address. So there's some insightful tidbits you can grab here. The phone number, it'll just say, hey, is it a good phone number? What time zone is it out of? What type of phone is it? So within that first 15 minutes, we launch the data validation and send the welcome email. Within the first 2 hours, you will see a check mark appear on this drip campaign section, the middle check mark. So within the first 2 hours, Kunversion will actually attach the default drip campaign. In this case, your system is using the Kunversion default buyer drip. So the drip will attach within the first 2 hours, and it actually launches the first full day the lead is in the system. So if I was to go to Chris's site today and sign up, in the first 15 minutes I would get the welcome, and tomorrow, my first full day in the dashboard, I would start receiving the drip. And I think another question popped in. Let me take a look here. Oh no, it's just James saying thank you. You're welcome, sir. Okay, now on this top section where it says alerts, this is a key space where you as the agents need to be very proactively jumping in and setting up listing alerts for your leads when they come into the system. So this is reliant on you being working this into part of your daily process. Now, Kunversion does have a safety in place to where so on a daily basis, we scour everyone's dashboards in our entire database, and we look at leads who haven't had listing alerts set up after 2 days. So after 2 days, if you, the agent, has not set up a listing alert for a lead, we do have this safety in place that will say, okay, we see this lead doesn't have listing alert set up, so we will set one up for you, the agent, for the lead to make sure some type of listing alert is going outbound to that lead to invite them back to your website to look at properties, because you want this big 360 always coming back to you, the agent. So Kunversion will base that content off of this information here in the middle. So if Kunversion was to set up a listing alert for Jamie Lee right now, we would set it up based off of Jamie Lee looking at 2 properties, mostly single family in Cleves, 3-bed, 1-bath, around 133. And we would pull price points from 50 below and 50 above that average. Now, if you want to get a well-rounded view on what the lead is looking at, maybe you haven't been able to get a hold of them to set up a listing alert that's customized to your conversation, you can look at this content here and this activity tab across the top, the third over from the left. And this gives you insight on everything they've looked at since the dawn of time of becoming a lead. So you can actually hover over this and we can see she's looking at you know, the MLS number, we've got the price point, we've got the bed and bath and area and zip. Now, sometimes if people looked at a handful or maybe, you know, 7 to 10 homes, as you scroll over these, you might see different towns, but it's not the most prevalent town of which they have looked at a home. So when Kunversion sets it up, we look at the area they've looked at most often and set up our alerts based on that information. You as an agent can actually come in here and fine-tooth comb that and make sure to add in those additional areas and values.
Are you going to show us how to do that?
I am. That was a great segue. Thank you. So we're going to click on alerts here.
Oh.
And set up listing alerts.
We've been practicing.
Okay.
How to do this presentation. How to segue.
Yeah. We've been studying up. So to set up listing alerts, you know, you've got 2 types of alerts you can set up here. There's alert 1 and alert 2. This can come in handy if you have perhaps an investor looking for a home for themselves and investment properties. You can split them out. If you have someone looking for a single family home versus land, you could split them out, whatever you need to. Alerts are imperative to be set up via Kunversion because we pull this content directly from your MLS. On average, across North America, we pull data from the MLSs approximately every 15-20 minutes, so we're always pulling the most up-to-date content we can get. And they're super forgiving and can be updated anytime. So when you're setting up a listing alert, the first thing you can do is click into listing types here. And you can say, hey, we talked to Jamie Lee P. She's looking for single family condos. Maybe you accidentally hit commercial. Not a big deal. If you want to get rid of one of these anytime, you can always pop in and click the X to get rid of it. We also have a standard list of filters available via this options dropdown. So if you speak with the lead and they're like, oh gosh, you know what, I don't want foreclosures, I don't want distressed, I want newly built, I want the master bedroom on the main floor, I need a pool, whatever it happens to be. You can scroll through and be like, all right, master on main, I'll add that filter. Looking for a place with a pool? All right, I'll add that in as a filter. So you have the ability to add these in or remove them as necessary. Now, if your MLS has specific filters or fields that you want to pull additional data from that aren't part of what we have here, you can absolutely work with support in getting those additional filters added, and they would add them in between this options section and area 1 section. So for instance, with my test account out of New Jersey, I can add in the field of amenities. You know, is the place near a cathedral? Is the place near a basketball court? Is it near a subway? I can add in, how's the water getting heated? How's the water getting to the house? What's the parking situation? So you can absolutely work as a team or with Chris and kind of knock out what filters you want to add in, and we can get those added in most likely. Because of course, support will have to look at what you're asking for, look at the fields, make sure it's data we can pull, but odds are it's something available. Now, when we move into area and value, this is where we start talking to apples content. So if we are going to be dropping in information here on a city, if someone says the city is it Cleves, correct, with this person, I think? Yeah. So you would put a city here, and then you would start typing in Cleves. If they call you and they're like, oh, what, you know, I'd like another city around that area, you know, you could drop in the next, you know, Cleveland City, whatever it happens to be. You know, you can drop in additional cities just by adding a comma here. If they say, hey, you know what, grandma lives in this neighborhood, maybe it'd be nice to find a home near her. You could put in neighborhood, and if your MLS pulls neighborhoods, you could put that to the right. If they say, hey, my kid needs to finish out high school at this particular high school and I need to find a home around that place, you could type in high school, and if your MLS pulls those high school areas, you could put the high school name here to the right. But bottom line, it's all apples to apples. So city to city, zip to zip, neighborhood to neighborhood, school to school. And then of course we can put in our bed and bath and min and max. So let's refresh what Jamie was looking at here. So it's a 3-bed, 2-bath. So she has a low end of 1.5 baths and minimum 3-bed. And I'd say between 100 and 200,000. What do you think, Chris? He may have stepped away a moment. So what I would do.
Yeah, we were going over questions. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
If we wanted to put multiple counties in there, is that possible, or would we have to set up separate alerts?
Yeah, you could put county here. And what would be like a name of one county?
Butler. And then maybe Warren, so just separate by comma?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So you're not limited to just these here. When you expand these out with commas, when it updates, it would actually list them all down. I've had up to 13 here previously when I was a user.
You know, another problem that I've had trying to work through is when I've tried to do lists of foreclosures.
Mm-hmm.
And like I'll do a list of foreclosures for Butler County, and it'll show me 3 or something like that, and there should be like 200. So how do we get that? I've contacted support about it, and it has kind of gone into a black hole. So
let me make a note on that, and we can loop back to that if that's okay.
Okay. That to me seems like one of the most important ones that we should be able to access.
Yeah. Do you want me to finish setting up this alert, or would you like to move to Butler County?
No, just go right back into what you're doing.
Okay.
Show us how to set up that alert. That's great. Thank you. Sorry.
No, you don't need to apologize. I just want to make sure that we're going a direction that you want me to go in. So, so from here, I would drop in the price, and in this case, because she had a low end of I think 114 to a high end of 154, 174, I can't remember now. So with her, I might put her from a price range to 100 to 200,000.
Yeah, that's good.
And then if you speak with the person, you have a really nice added service to offer to carbon copy these alerts to someone for them. So it could be their husband, wife, significant other, maybe it is grandma who wants to know, but you can drop that email address in here. And then you can choose your frequency of which you want these to dispatch. Now, when we first started speaking to alerts, I mentioned Kunversion has that safety in place where we'll set up a listing alert for you after 2 days if you haven't set one up. So our default method of launching alerts is an instant alert. So approximately every hour, we scour the MLS for matching properties that are new or updated, and we send new or updated content to that lead. That's what an instant alert is. You can also choose a recap of daily, bi-weekly, which is twice a week, or weekly. So Chris, which one would you want me to set up here?
I would definitely do instantly.
Okay. And then,
are going quickly, so we want to get to them quickly.
Perfect. And then when you click update here, it's going to take us from this blue ribbon to your overview tab here on the left to update the page, and it's going to pop us back onto this second ribbon. It'll turn it blue, and hopefully we'll see a little thumbs up, meaning we have results land here.
What does the thumbs down mean? Does that mean no results?
Correct. No results. Yep. So whenever you see a thumbs down, you might need to finesse your area. You might need to finesse your price, bed and bath, play with a little bit to get a wider grab.
That's good to know.
So at this point, the system is saying there's one home that's new or updated in the last 7 days from your MLS. So these homes that land here is everything new or updated from the MLS in the last 7 days. And because it's a rectangle, we can see the lead's already seen it. Now, when you're initially setting up alerts, if you want to send your lead the whole shoot and match of everything that matches their criteria right off the bat, you can click on email link to full listing list to lead or text it. And this will send them everything that matches from the MLS. And then, going forward from what you set up today, they'll receive everything new or updated. But it's 2 steps. If you want to send everything anytime or right off the bat, you use these 2 tools here. And then Kunversion will take care of the rest once you get the alert set up on the alert tab. So back on Chris's dashboard, the next thing we're going to take a look at here is the squeeze page tool. And it's located via the second wrench down this left-hand side. So it's about 2/3 down via build squeeze, second wrench. And the whole point of a buyer-seller squeeze page builder is to build one clickable link for a targeted area, targeted type of listing, and or option. And we pull all of this content directly from the MLS of which you are connected. So in this case, we could put in Butler County. And I could do, I want to pull all single family. Darn it, why did it change it to city? Oh, I love technology sometimes. There we go. There we go. So, and then we could say we want all foreclosures, and we want condos, multifamily. What else would you include in here? Townhouses?
Yeah.
Okay. So at this point, we could pull all of the foreclosures from Butler for single family condos, multifamily, townhouse, etc. And I'm just going to build this link real quick. And the system's showing 22. I'm going to take a screenshot of this real quick. Bear with me while I get this saved. Okay, I'll follow up with support on that.
Thank you.
Okay, so just to go back to the squeeze pages, again, you find this tool by scrolling down this left-hand side of your dash, second wrench on the left via build squeeze. And again, the whole purpose of this is to create a single clickable link to a mass amount of results, more than one result, which is towards a targeted area, targeted type of listing, targeted option perhaps. Now, when you are filling out this form, I suggest you start with this area section and work your way down, and then we're going to loop back to these top two. So at this point, we might want to determine where we want to target for buyers or sellers. So where would be an area, you want to do sellers?
Do you mind just explaining, some agents are kind of new to the squeeze page concept.
Oh, sure.
Can you tell what the squeeze page is, maybe how that's different from a landing page?
Sure. So a squeeze page is you're creating a one clickable link to results. You're saying, hey, lead, if you click this, you get that. And it immediately sends them to your website where they're prompted to log in, look at the property information, and become a lead. So it's very A to B, very linear, very direct. A landing page generator is a completely different tool that allows you to build in different calls to action and more advertising content. The landing page lead gen tool, which if time allows we'll loop into, actually has it set up to where once the lead enters their email address in on your landing page, within 10 seconds Kunversion brings them onto your dashboard as a lead, where you redirect them to whatever link you're going to send them information on. So it could be a squeeze page even. You can hashtag it for tracking purposes. And if you're forwarding them to your website to view information, it pre-logs the lead in. And all that happens pretty much instantaneously the moment they click the button when they've submitted their email address. But again, the squeeze page is more direct, like click this, get that. It gets people immediately to the information of which they are looking at to view. So what would be an area of which you would be wanting to gain buyers?
Let's say Mason, Ohio.
Okay, so you can put in the first few characters or the word of the area of which you want to target. And again, it's based off of a single targeted area. So this could be the city of Mason, the area, a neighborhood, an elementary school of Mason, Corinth, or homes around Mason City High School.
Let's do that.
The Mason City High School?
Yeah, let's try that.
So in this case, you could say, well, what type of listings do I want to pull into these results? So would there typically be condos, multifamily, townhouses, or what would you pull in around Mason High School?
I would say condos and single family. Okay.
Now, because this is a smaller area, you may not want to put options in because it's around a school. However, you can always sit down with your calendar and sit down and be like, all right, what am I going to do for myself today to drive leads back to my site? So you could sit down with your calendar and be like, well, maybe every Mondays I'm going to pull just listeds. Or maybe it's Fixer Friday. Perhaps it's Open House Saturday. Maybe it's Homes on a Golf Course Monday, or Reduced or Foreclosure Fridays. You can go through and choose one of these options to
That's a
pull
good
in
idea.
content. Well, it's just one of those things where you can be like, hold yourself accountable, because really, as an agent, you're all quote unquote independent contractors, right? You're all running your show with your own dashboard. So it's important to create all of those avenues back to yourself. So like a metaphor that maybe sounds silly but works is you can kind of think of yourselves as like the agent behind the curtain. This is like your Wizard of Oz scenario. And every link you put out there, every advertisement you put out there is a yellow brick road bringing people back to you and your site. And you need to have as many of those yellow brick roads as you possibly can have. You got to make it easy for people to find you.
Cool.
So in this case, we might leave options as none because we're pulling homes around this high school. Now, if you want to build in tracking capability, so you can recognize everyone that came in via this link we're creating, you can start using a hashtag. Hashtags live over here on the left-hand side of your dashboard within this hashtag folder. And you can think of hashtags as like your giant gray metal filing cabinet within Kunversion. Every tag is like a manila folder. So you can easily identify people and pull them out in groupings for future contact or context. So in this case, we could call this hashtag something that whatever speaks to how we think about our business. So myself, when I was a user, I would have called this like Mason High School homes, or
Hey,
Mason City.
One thing we do with hashtags is, and it's real important for agents to understand this, since you get 100% commission on self-generated leads, you always want to put a hashtag with your last name there. And that way, when we're looking at all of the groupings of leads, that basically puts your thumbprint on your lead, and we'll know that that's a self-generated lead.
There you go.
That makes one of the quickest ways for us to figure it out.
That's a great concept and idea. So in this case with Russell, I would, or Chris, I'd be like Russell, Mason City High School. So when these leads register, they'll automatically be tagged with this hashtag, and it'll land over here as part of the selections of tags you can look up. Now, if you're tracking your advertising reach with clicks per signups, you can also drop a source code here. So you could use the same information as the hashtag. As an agent, it's important to have something in there differentiating your source code from the rest of your brokerage, because all of the source code results land at the very bottom of this page. And this shows for your entire brokerage. So it's going to show you the source, how many visits, how many leads, what was that sign up rate. And you can actually scroll down. If you're like, you put your initials, your name, you can scroll down to your name and be like, oh, here's Russell, here's, Fred, Julie, whomever, and you can identify your clicks per signups.
That's cool. I never knew about that.
Yeah, some people care about it, some people don't, or they work towards getting to the point where they can grasp it.
Yeah, that's great.
So when I build the link, Kunversion is going to throw its arms out around your MLS, and it's going to pull all of the listings that are single family and condos for the homes around Mason City High School, and it's going to drop this source code and hashtag onto the link.
One of the things I never had figured out is where it says the type, buyer or seller. How does that differentiate in the link that's created or the lead itself? What does that do?
So the buyer differentiation on type is when you want to gain buyer leads onto your pipeline. And the seller...
Is it just a classification of the type of lead it's going to be once I put it wherever I want to put it?
Yes.
Okay.
So the seller lead, you direct people to a custom valuation page for a specific area or target. So
but the link here for the list of homes will still be the same, I guess, right?
Well, for a buyer, it's going to show up. So like there's 171 current listings around that high school.
Okay. So if you mind showing us there to put seller lead, then what would we do if we're trying to get a seller lead?
Sure, for a seller lead, if you wanted to target that high school area, like we could put
Yeah.
in, was it Mason City, right?
Yeah.
So we could put in Mason City High School. Oh, come on. Come on. There we
Yeah,
go.
great.
I'm like, okay, computer. And then you could just change this to seller. And then you could put build link. And it creates a seller valuation page. So
And how's that different than the standard? So, and what's the listings there? Like, what is that?
there's 150 active listings for seller leads right now, for like active listings on the MLS right now.
Okay. So does that show the listings, or does that show the? Does that show how much is your house is worth?
It's a valuation call to action. So if I go into Facebook, Google Plus, LinkedIn, Twitter, etc., I'm going to go ahead and paste the link in here as an example. It's going to say the average price in Mason City High School is 0. Well, that's odd. What's yours worth? So you could...
So that won't have a list of homes then, I guess.
No, because this is a valuation call to action to try and gain seller leads for your listing pipeline.
Okay. I just wasn't sure if it gave a list of homes or if it did actually just that. So I got you.
Yeah, the list of homes is going to come up if we were to do it for Mason City for buyers.
Yeah.
So if we were to go in and do, we could do like reduced buyer, and I think we pull single family and condos. Yeah. So if I rebuild this, now we're pulling a buyer. Oh, it didn't change it to seller, darn it. Let me go ahead and refresh this. Sorry about that. So Mason City, buyer, condos, reduced. All right, choose. I have witnesses. It looks right. Let's see what happens. Okay, so when I pulled all of the reduced listings for the homes around that school, there's 15 that are currently actively reduced. So this link right here, to use it, you have to highlight it and copy it. You'll notice that when you put your cursor in here, this little circle with the slash shows up. Don't let it throw you off your game. Nothing bad happened. It's just saying, hey, you can't click this link right here to view it. You need to highlight it and copy it. So in this case, you could pop onto Facebook or any of your social media sites. Get rid of that one. Paste your link in. Facebook will fetch a preview. Now, 9 times out of 10, Facebook's going to drop a photo here. That 10th time, you won't see a photo on your preview. Don't let that throw you off your game either. It's just a Facebook thing. We cannot control it. But I just want to make sure you're prepared in case that does happen. You're like, all right, no big deal. I can still post this.
Well, that's my house. How did you get a picture of my house on there?
I don't know, but your neighbors look like they got a lot of kids. Pretty active neighborhood over there. So when you look at this from an agent's perspective, it's sending people right to your website here at the bottom left. So it's going to Chris Russell at plumtreerealty.com. As an agent, any link you provide off of your own dashboard will always start with your name.brokersname.com. So it always leads people directly back to you. Once your information loads in, you can get rid of your link that you pasted in and put in whatever your call to action is to your audience. So now I'm going to go ahead and post the link. And your lead can be bebopping through, hey, reduced homes, love a deal. They can click on this and be sent to those results. Now, someone had a great question. So don't be hard on yourself saying it might not be a good question. If you don't know, you don't know. Basically, they're asking, hey, if someone comes across my post a week later, when they click on the link, will the information be up to date, or is it only the information from the day I posted the information? Every time a lead clicks on that link, whether it's today, tomorrow, in 2 hours, in 2 months, Kunversion always sends them to the most up-to-date content we can possibly pull from your MLS. So it's constantly a live update. So they can click on this anytime in 2 hours. If there's 17 results, they're going to see those 17 results instead of 15. So it's constantly going to update the content. Now, in speaking to editing a squeeze page, let me go ahead and just build a generic one for Mason, for maybe Cleves. If you want to edit a squeeze page and finesse some price ranges, I'm just going to go ahead and pull all the results in Cleves, in the city of Cleves. Oh, there's 8 listings. Maybe, is that a small town?
Yes.
Oh, well, then I should have known better. What's a larger town?
Westchester would do the trick.
Okay.
2 words. Maybe.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's say we want to pull the city of Westchester. And I want to pull every single listing in Westchester, which I'm sure is going to be a lot. There's 122 is what it's showing me. Does that sound correct?
Yeah, it might be thinking Old Westchester or the city itself. There's also Westchester Township, which is might be a little bit bigger.
All right, let's give that a whirl. Two in the township. Interesting. So I am going to write that down and see what's happening here, because this does not look correct.
You could try Monroe, Ohio.
Which one? Just this one? Area?
I think it would be area Monroe, I think.
Well, we'll give it a whirl. All right, 39.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say, you know, we pulled every single active listing in Monroe, but you only want to capture a specific price point, like the person a little earlier was speaking to. How can I get higher leads coming in? We can actually highlight this link and copy it. And you can go to a Word document, a Google Sheet, a notepad, and paste the link in. So I'm just going to paste that link in, and we're actually going to edit this link. Within this link, you'll see this bed equals 0, bath equals 0, min and max. You can actually edit this content. So you could say, well, you know what? I only want to capture 3 bed, 2 bath, from 250 to, I don't know if you want to put a cap on it. Maybe you want 250 to 500,000 or 600.
Oh, that's helpful.
Yeah, so you can actually pop in and edit this right here and finesse that drop.
So agents, the reason why this is important is because once you get that link, you might not want to show all of the homes available in Mason, because there's going to be $1 million homes and there's going to be $100,000 homes. You might want to say, check out these homes under $200,000 in Mason.
Right.
And that would draw people in more than just looking at $1 million homes when they know they can't afford over 200.
Right. It's that targeted type of advertising for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
So now we've edited this information, we can then highlight and copy the link. And when we go to this link, I'm going to go ahead and just paste and go. When we go to the link to Chris's site, if there's 18 homes that are between 250,000 and 600,000 in Monroe that are 3 bed, 2 bath. So this is something that you could use as a squeeze page on Facebook. So if we went to Facebook here and just pasted the link in, it's going to give us a generic homes in Monroe. So this is where you could put, you know, check out these family-friendly properties, or whatever you wanted to put here. I'm not sure what your regulations state, because I know they're always changing with what you can and cannot say. But, you know, you could check out these, you know, homes in Monroe between, you know, X to Z. And then, you know, post it. And then your leads can actually, you know, look at these homes and click on it and go directly to that information. And again, every time they click the link, whether it's today, tomorrow, a week from now, it'll always send them to the most up-to-date content.
So you could reuse that link then a week later or 2 weeks later, you could post that same link once a month, I suppose, without having to refresh it.
Yeah, you absolutely could. And in this case, like in your area, are there any are there specific demographics that you speak to, like people who are looking for homes on golf courses, or any water type views, or horse properties, anything like that?
You could say golf course views.
Okay. Okay. So
we're in Ohio. There's not much in Ohio to see.
well, I'm not sure.
Cornfield view. Can you do a cornfield view?
I mean, I may. Does your MLS have a field for that? So maybe if there's a field for it.
Sludgy Ohio River view.
So, we could put in, Monroe. And you could say, well, I want to find all of the homes that are around, have a pool or a golf course or horse property or open houses. So like yourself, if you wanted to tackle people who were looking for homes in Monroe Township, looking to buy for open houses, something to do this weekend, you could click build link. And there are actually just 2 open houses going right now in that area. But that would be a way you could, post that information to your local community groups on Facebook. You could do targeted marketing on Facebook as well. Do you want me to touch a little bit on that?
Yeah. Well, so just a quick question Jenna had there was, does it, when they sign in, it asks for their email address on these squeeze pages.
Yes.
Does it capture their information, anything about them, without them actually putting their email address in? So if they go to that page and then they end up not putting their email address in, does it capture any info about them?
So if they do not supply that email address, they can't view the property. They're going to get a glance of it, and then a little pop-up's going to come up saying, hey, you need to log in to view this information.
Is it true that it does capture their IP address on their computer, though? So it will recognize the next time it comes back to the site that that's a Jenna lead or that's a Steve lead or whatever that might be? Like if it starts out...
They have to have registered. So,
okay, so it captures that when they register?
Right. It's only going to be unique to the agent when there's an actual physical registration lead on a dashboard. And IP addresses can cover quite a broad area sometimes, like more than one person. So, you can't really finesse it to an individual person like that. But we do need to have them sign in to have them become a lead to start getting drips alerts, etc. Now, if somebody logs in and they provide a bogus email address, which, never happens, right? Every time that person comes back to look at a home, before they can view another home, the system says, hey, we need you to update your email address. So there is a safety built in place to remind people, hey, I need you to give us a new email address before you can see things again.
Okay.
Now, say you wanted to focus in on this information here of the refined search of people looking in Monroe between 250 and 600,000, 3-bed, 2-bath. You want to target these people on Facebook, perhaps. So I'm actually going to grab this link we created because that was our squeeze page link. And I'm going to open up my Facebook business page. So I really encourage you, because you are, basically your business owner, you're running your business as an agent, to make sure you have a Realty page set up. If you're going to be creating targeted information going back to you, the agent. So myself, I would pop this in, paste my link in, let Facebook fetch the preview. After its dramatic pause, there we go. And then I would just publish this. And this is like the free way of which you can post it on your page. Very easy to do, very simple and quick. So here is my post I put on my own business page. Now at this point, I can choose to boost this post. And I can also choose to target a specific area or demographic. So I can actually click Boost Post. And the system will say, well, here's what your preview is for the desktop view. Here is your preview for a mobile view. And we can look here to this left-hand side and start building our ad. So we can move down into audience and choose our target. So we can click edit. And because we have homes starting at 200,000, we may want to jump our age up to 30 or 35, I'm guessing. You know, you can look at your age range, 30 to 65 plus. Now, because I live in Washington State, it's saying, hey, we're going to target Washington, but we can actually click this X and we can put in that area. And that's Ohio, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, so you can say, oh, well, I want to target Monroe, Ohio. And it drops a pin for you and says, okay, well, the default here is 25-mile radius, or you can finesse this down to 10 miles, out to 50.
So agents, here's just one way to use this would be if you get a listing, you could promote the heck out of that listing through Facebook, which is value added for your listing client, but that's a terrific way to get buyer leads for your listings, which could transfer to other ones. And I would recommend doing this not just on your full listings, do this on your, if you do a flat fee listing, your client isn't going to disparage you if you advertise it. And so I've gotten flat fee listings of, you know, $1 million properties, and $500 I get paid, but if I can get buyer leads off of it, then I make big money. So well, I'd encourage you to do that.
And also with seller leads, like when we're doing a target here, this one's for buyers, but let's just say this is a seller ad. We want to gain homeowner information. You could create a landing page, and I don't know if we're going to have time to demonstrate this today because I have another class coming fairly soon. But you could create a landing page saying this home in this neighborhood sold in X amount of days, or this much over asking, or whatever it happened to be. You know, homes are moving fast in your area, and you could do a targeted audience on Facebook. You could actually, you know, get rid of this demographic, and I'm going to jump onto your website here to grab an address. So let's take a look here. So 406 Tyler Station Drive. Okay, so let's say you were looking to target homeowners in Johnstown. You could go in here and, I already forgot, 406 Tyler Station. So we could actually type in 406 Tyler Station, and that was Johnstown, right? And do a quick search. So it dropped it in. That's where that home is located on a map. Then I can say, well, I want to target all homeowners within 1 mile or 2 miles at most, and hit them with this ad on their Facebook timeline. That way, they're going to see that this home in their neighborhood sold for this much, or this how many days on the market, what have you. And you can get that potential homeowner information for listing appointments or evaluation appointments. Then, of course, once you have that content in, you could, you know, figure out your demographics. So if you're talking about buyers, you could do demographics, like if you're like near a golf course, you could put in golfers. I want people interested in golf, you know, or you could get rid of it. You can also exclude people, which is super important to do because you want to make sure your advertising dollars that you have worked hard to use are not hitting your competitors' timelines on Facebook as, you know, consumers. So you can hit exclude, and you can type in, and I'm going to move this down a little bit here. You can type in broker. And I want to exclude all brokers. I want to exclude lenders from getting my hard-earned advertising dollars.
Right, realtors, you know, all of that, yeah.
Yeah, so you can drop in these, and the system will say, all right, are you too specific? Are you too broad? Are you just right? So you can watch this little meter here, and Facebook will kind of tell you what you could potentially reach. So right now, the way it's set up, I could reach potentially 4,000 people with this ad so far. So if I save this, then the system would be like, okay, what's your budget? What's your duration? So you can put in any amount here. You can put in a custom amount. And then you can say, well, I want this to run through the 11th. I want it to run 14 days. I want it to run 7 days. And then the system will say, well, based on your budget and run, you're going to reach between 410 and 1,100 people. and it'll give you a rundown of, like, based on 14 days, you're going to spend about $1 a day over 14 days to reach this many people. And then, of course, it says, hey, pay us. So you have to connect your PayPal, and then away it goes. And I'm going to cancel this, so I don't get dinged on a bill. So are there any questions anybody wants to ask? You are welcome to unmute. I do need to kind of start wrapping up here because I have another session starting, and we've run a tad long here, but that's okay. But I just want to see if there's any additional questions.
Well, just I know that was a list of properties, Squeeze Page Builder, and just down at the bottom, I know you have the single property.
Oh yeah,
Squeeze
for
Page
sure.
Builder. And I highly recommend that our agents pick any Plum Tree listings that you can find, and let's cross promote everyone's listings. It'd be great if every one of our listings had 10 squeeze pages for it. So the more the merrier. And if you get listing, obviously you can do your own listings, do a squeeze page for your own listings. I highly recommend that. And but also if you do one for an agent outside of our brokerage, I'd recommend that you get permission before you send it out, because even though you don't necessarily have to, because they've already agreed to do that through the listing agreement, most realtors are confused about it, and they don't necessarily know that they've already signed permission to do that. So you get permission to create fewer waves.
For sure. I always say follow your local rules and regs, and make sure to have that conversation as a courtesy with their broker and the listing agent. That's like my go-to. I'm like, just make sure your bases are covered and you get it in writing.
Yeah.
That's key.
That's a good idea.
So, to build a single property squeeze, you just grab your MLS number and you click on Build Squeeze down this left-hand side, and the single property squeeze is right below the Squeeze Page Builder. You drop your MLS ID in, and then you can build a hashtag in to track it, a source code if you want. And with a single property, you can actually delay registration by 1 view. So when a lead clicks on the link on your social media where you posted it, they can view the property, but the moment they click to a second picture or a different property, the system's like, whoop, I need you to log in.
I usually delay the registration just to tease them a little bit so they can see a little bit of the property before they get asked for their email address.
For sure. And I believe the majority of our users do this single delay on the single property. They seem to have a lot of good response rate there.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Well, I hope this has been helpful for you. You're always welcome to contact myself or Victoria, the other training specialist, anytime you have questions. We are at training@insiderealestate.com. And Chris, I will go ahead and format this video, send you a recap with any information that might be handy for your agents to utilize. And as an aside, on your broker dashboard, Susan Williams was responding regarding the initial question I sent via your broker dash. And I'll check into the Butler County, Hamilton foreclosure poll, all that good stuff with support, and see what I can find out.
Yeah, that's terrific. Thanks so much for your help today.
You are welcome. Hope you all have a great day. Now,
Okay.
I'm going to double dog dare you. Go to a squeeze page.
Yeah, great.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.